Ready? The team, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 5.
I'd like to call this meeting to order and thank you for being here. And those of you who are streaming in, we thank you for also taking the time to stream with us. At this time, I will need an approval of our minutes. Okay. Ms. Tupper made the motion and Ms. Crosby second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. And now I'd like to turn the time over for welcome and invocation to Justin Farnsworth.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we've got a lot of folks watching from home as well as here in person with us tonight, so thank you for being here and certainly welcome. If you would like, I would ask you to please bow your heads and join me in prayer. Lord, we join here together tonight during unprecedented times like none of us have ever seen before. During a time when your wisdom and guidance are needed more than ever, we understand that we are called on to lead from a place of deep reverence and know that the burdens upon us now shall one day pass. Lord, we know we must be strong in the face of uncertainty and forge a path forward for all of those under our care. Above all else, we are thankful. We are thankful for the amazing people you have placed here in our district. We are thankful for our first responders, military members, and frontline workers across the globe who sacrifice everything that so we may meet here tonight in freedom. We are thankful for your many blessings. For my fellow board members, I would like to close with an old quote, and it goes something like this. Being presented with a problem is truly a gift. Not only does being presented with a problem mean you are still living and breathing on this great earth, being presented with a problem gives you the chance to do your best. As leaders and public servants, we should find solace and gratitude that we have been given the rare opportunity to truly do our best. Lord, we ask that you join us here tonight and grant us the wisdom and servitude to do our absolute best. In your name we pray, amen. Please join me for the pledge.
It is now time for a public comment, and I need to because there are several that we have. I occasionally do this, and I think it's to clarify things, and it's an important thing to clarify. So before we start our public comments, first of all, the public comments, the first, as you'll see, number 5, public comments only on agenda items. Further down, you will see another public comment, number 11, public comments. And that's anything that you would like to speak about. But for the number 5 public comments, they must be, as you see on the agenda item. Now, I'd like to read the following to you, because as Mr. Farnsworth said in his prayer, it is unprecedented times, and this is new to all of us. During our meeting is one way we hear from our constituents. Others email myself and board members when they want to reach us, and we appreciate that. To allow us to hear from those wishing to speak, the way we are receiving public comment is also evolving during this COVID pandemic. Beginning tonight, we want to open the meetings so people who are presenting information and who wish to make a public comment can attend in person while still following current health and safety guidelines. And as you can see, we are abiding by that. After this information was posted on the agenda and announced, there were a few people who did reach out to us via email and to the administration to request that they be allowed to make their comments by phone due to their extenuating circumstances, which we all understand. So we are going to attempt to call those specific individuals at the appropriate time, at the appropriate agenda for comments. Also, as always, it's a maximum of 3-minute comment. Technically, that usually allows 6 to 7 people because it's 20 minutes total per our policy BEDH. But the chairman has the authority to extend the 20-minute window if she chooses. And tonight, I think it's important that I extend it 10 minutes, and if that's okay with everybody? Okay. I'm going to extend that to 30 minutes tonight. It's likely that most comments are going to be related to Mr. Pye's State of the District reopening the 2021 school year. So it would be good to have a plan in place should you have larger than usual number of people wishing to speak. If somebody is saying the same thing you want to speak, just get up and say that, you totally agree with them, and then you can give us what specific reason that you may have. During the pandemic, we have conducted board meetings using different formats. We have used Microsoft Teams, and now we are live streaming, which is exciting, and meetings from our district website. As we, your elected officials, we do want to hear from our community. We do want to hear from our parents. We want to hear from our students. We want to hear from our teachers and our staff. When you have ideas or concerns on matters which are within the scope of our duties, making a public comment during our meeting is one way we are able to hear from you. The others are you are always welcome to email any of us. To allow us to hear from those wishing to speak, the way we are receiving public comments is also evolving. But beginning tonight, we are going to allow phone calls and in person. It's a lot. I need some water. So, having said that, if someone has a public comment, please come forward on the agenda. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to number 6, approval of minutes. I need a motion to approve the call meeting of June 22nd, 2020.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Evan Guthrie has made that motion. Okay, Ms. Hughes has seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we need to take a vote for approval. It is unanimous. And now I also need for someone to approve the regular meeting of June 22nd, 2020.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Farnsworth made that motion. Do I have a second? Okay, we have a second for Mr. Brian Mitchum. Are there any discussions? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that too is unanimous. And now something I think we've been long awaiting, and we have our spectacular superintendent here tonight, and he is about to give us our State of the District report. So I'll turn the time over to Mr. Pye.
Wait for me.
I am.
Thank you. This is going to be a little bit longer. Thank you so much. State of the District address, because I'm trying to summarize what I've been talking about for the last 4 or 5 meetings. We've been giving you ideas about, we were really worried, concerned, and had a lot of conversation, different groups of people, all stakeholders at some point in time, about the reopening of school. I found 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I found dozens of people who agree. But if you put 200 in a room, you got 12 different decisions. The people need to go. I'm in constant contact with now 9 superintendents in the 9 lower part of the state districts. Well, so much for Channel 5. Is that what it is? It's gone. Oh, that might be a blessing. Let's get moving quickly before she fixes it. So the task force is made up of over about 150 people. Let me get you to that first. Okay, the community task force is the group that's really helped us to define the parameters of where we might be going. And there are lots of options. So keep in mind the district has not chosen anything as of tonight. So if you're waiting to hear what day we're starting school, that will not be announced tonight. The option that we will use will not be announced tonight. There'll be a couple of other announcements that obviously are prerequisites for making those announcements. And we hope that those will be done next Monday night in a special call meeting that I hope the board will include on its calendar. That will give us a chance. We have to send this into the State Department of Education to be approved about what we'd like to do. And you'll see as we've set this up, we've tried to allow a lot of flexibility as we're going to base this on the health conditions that our community is under at the time we're making decisions. And of course, we can make a decision and it can change radically, and hopefully the district will be poised to move in whatever direction we have to protect not only our students, but our staff. And I lay awake at night really worried about our staff, y'all. We're so dependent on our teachers to do the good job they do, but their lack of presence in a classroom defeats the whole purpose of relationship building, how children learn best with face-to-face. Now, all that's true, but if that's not the face that they want to be with, it's not going to work as well. So we have all those issues that confront us, and so I guess I'm going to wrap my arms around, even though they're recommendations, whatever the health department and DHEC and those are saying at that time will be our major indicator to which direction we will have to move at that time comes. But we have teacher and staff representatives that made up our committee, principals, parents, students, and district office staff. And we work with the State Department of Education and the various health agencies. We have 6 subcommittees, including teaching and learning, technology, operations, health and safety, social emotional learning, and communications. We developed the criteria and considerations for reopening models that would be flexible enough to quickly adapt to current disease activity and still provide the absolute best possible educational opportunities for our students. And that's a real match, to try to match what we think is in best interest of teaching children, but keeping children safe and our staff. They're really opposite ends of the spectrum, and it's very difficult to try to go up the middle and try to offer that. But we are trying to offer some balanced approaches that would give us protection in both areas and direction. We collected information through parent and staff surveys, and we get daily feedback from our community stakeholders. Like today, I bet I received at least a dozen emails, and they're all over the place. Great stuff. One person sent me, a teacher at one of our schools, sent this weekend, and he said, first of all, I wanted you to know I'm praying for you. We know you have a difficult job, and I don't want to make you have to sit and read this long email. I think I can read an email. How long is it? After 25 minutes, I decided I needed a break, and I finished up this morning. It was supporting an angle, but it was really making common sense come alive. Because you hear so many myths and stuff, and it wasn't trying to say it wasn't true, but let's look at other perspectives of each of these things, pro and con. So I know what you're faced with and what the board will be faced with, but just know we have your back, we support you. But if you really want to know my opinion, here it is. So it was like in one paragraph, but I have to tell you how much I appreciate emails like that. It was so well-intentioned, and sometimes people will send you things, don't know the whole story. I've had 50 years experience, and I've talked with everybody in the United States will talk to me. I was on the telephone last week with people from Indianapolis and Indiana throughout there talking about what are you doing? How are you handling it there? So it's not just in South Carolina. We're talking to other schools, looking at their plans, and they're all over the place. We see some kind of common, but most of them are very different. All right. Now, here's the learning options that we're looking at. First of all, parents will have a choice of 2 major options. The first one are school-based instruction. Under school-based instruction will be true face-to-face, which is basically our traditional model. Hybrid, there's several hybrid types of things we can do. And the emergency e-learning, which means district-wide virtual learning through the computers, through technology. And the other choice will be our own virtual academy. So we could be doing 2 virtuals. The ones who choose not to go to virtual academy, and if we are at very high risk, we may decide that's in the best interest of the children to do that and not bring them into the school setting. and we'll find out in a minute the conditions that will allow us to do the other kinds of things. But look at the virtual academy. That will be 100% online learning for students. They will stay at home, and those parents who do not wish their children to be commingling with this virus going on, that would be the best choice for them. Parents who are very concerned that their children need that face-to-face instruction, then they would opt to do one of the school-based things, which we will be deciding whichever one we're doing. We'll be doing either all elementary, all high school and middle, or either all students in the district. It will not be different options among the different schools. We're going to try to keep it the same so we have equity in how we run this, and we can watch the data to make sure if it's working or not, so we can use our flexibility that we've built in to make our program even better. All right, now, there's the 3 school-based models here. You see a low-risk model. If it's low-risk disease activity in the area, that's what we were looking forward to. That puts us more on the traditional side. Then the medium risk is where the hybrids come in, and the high risk. Let's just jump to the high risk. That's where we are today. If we were opening today, we would say, based on this model, after we meet with our principals, we run it back to the committees, and then bring it back to the board. That all can change. Y'all may wish to change it very shortly, but that's where we're looking at as of today. We would do our emergency e-learning, and that would be where we have the students move to emergency e-learning by using the technology that we have now putting in place this year until the conditions warrant kids being on campus. So that model has, I guess later it says, it's closed for students. The school building will be open, teachers will be here, principals, but not students. And we will be managing the learning from a central point. The medium risk, of course, would be the hybrid models, and the school building would be open. The students would receive some face-to-face instruction, like 2 days a week, and then like Monday and Tuesday, or Wednesday and Thursday, and then that makes in 3 days of e-learning. The 2 other days, if they're Monday and Tuesday, they would do Wednesday, Thursday. All students would do e-learning on Friday, and that's where teachers could work with individual groups of students, do more stuff with teams, separate from what we're doing online. And that's that we give them more planning time, and if we're having some issues with where we need professional development to shore something up because it's not functioning like we wish, we would have that time during that period to be able to do that. Then, of course, the low risk would be low-risk disease activity would be face-to-face. School buildings would be open. Students would attend school 5 days per week and receive face-to-face instruction. And preventative practices and health and safety guidelines, though, will still be followed. On all 3 of these models, we will be following the guidelines that are set forth. And the last one, the emergency e-learning, of course, the emphasis will be heavily on our staff members and how we'll make sure that happens. But the other 2, as students come into the building, is where we'll talk about masks, other types of things that will keep them socially distanced so we can protect them. Now, the virtual academy model, we have, that's for all 3, no matter if we're at low risk, medium risk, or high with disease activity. That, once you're in the virtual academy, you're in the virtual academy. It will be 100% instruction and support regardless of the disease activity. Instruction by Dorchester District 2 teachers in partnership with Edmentum, Apex Learning, and Virtual South Carolina. There'll be all of our support programs to see. We're using everything we can to make sure we offer as much as we can. Nothing will ever be the same. We will not be able to offer everything we've always offered. We'll have to do the best we can. And where we can't get it from Edmentum, Apex, or Virtual South Carolina, which has a lot of wonderful programs, we hope to plan to design our own within our own district, using our staff members to design it and teach it. And plus our staff members can teach English 1 and other content areas that they have expertise in. We'll do a combination of all the above. Daily attendance will be required. It will not be like we did in the spring. Attendance will be required. If a child does not log in, or does not turn in the work that they're responsible for, they will be given an unexcused or excused absence based on the excuse that we receive or don't receive from the parents. Teachers and students will maintain a similar daily schedule. That seems to be the biggest misunderstanding. This is not that stuff we did in the spring. This is real school. Instead of being in the classroom, you're on your computer. Yes, you can take breaks and all, but if your teacher comes on, biology is being taught from 9 to 10. From 9 to 10, you have to be at your computer to receive the instruction and guidelines and things. That's your time. Then if there's 5 minutes to change classes, guess what? You have 5 minutes to take a break. Then you have an art class. Well, it may not be art as we know it, but art appreciation may be the course. Then you go ahead and you take that course and do what you need to do there. Then you stop, you have your lunch time. If the rest of the, that's what we're doing, we give you that lunch period. But it'll be a certain amount of time so that each subject is taught the amount of time it needs to be taught, and we know if you're on that computer or not. We have a program that we've invested in that will give us your minutes and things that you're involved. Virtual parent information night is being planned. We will probably announce that shortly after the board meeting next week. Once the decision has been made about where we're starting on this, then we'll decide on that night. But we will be having that night. We may have to have more than one because it's going to be important for parents to understand how to take care of these computers. We're providing all the computers, unlike this spring, state-of-the-art hotspots and things to make sure that they can access the internet. And we have companies and people working with us to expand the internet, as is the State Department of Education is well underway with theirs. So all these things are being done to try to assure that we have equity for all students and equal access for each one to have the same opportunities. All right, what's the bell schedule going to look like? Well, start time for elementary would stay the same at 7:15. That's for whatever model we use. 7:15. We're going to stop it at 1:45. Why are we going less? Why are we going 6.5 hours instead of traditional 7? We need that 30 minutes for the bus drivers to wipe down all the buses between routes. And we may have to adjust that even more down, but I think that to get in all the stuff we need to do in the 4-year-old transportation, that's only 2 hours and 45 minutes. We don't want to shorten the 4-year-old program. And we are going to have that. We will be bringing them in as usual because they only go a half a day. Their schedule will be like 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes. And they're bused back home in the middle of the day, and the second group is brought in and go home with the other students in the afternoon. So the class size is usually at 20. We're going to make it 15. And that's just going to be class size. It won't be half the class. The teacher will have the morning session with 15, not to exceed 15, and not to exceed 15 in the afternoon. So we will continue with that. Then we have the middle school, normally starts about 8:15. We're picking up 15 minutes there at 8:30, and they'll be out at 3 o'clock instead of their normal time of 3:15. Then we have the high school, Rawlings, and Gap are on the same schedule. They will start at 9:30 instead of their typical 8:55. They will still get out at their 4 p.m. It's just the time is taken away in the morning because of the buses having to get to the 3 different schools. Talking to transportation, we feel that the number of parents on the survey, and we're going to survey everybody again, who wants to do virtual, who's not going to ride the bus, we've got to get fixed numbers. But we feel like so many parents are willing to bring their children that we can get the 50% on the bus and be okay. With like families and all, we think we can redo some of the routes and things, and we're feeling good about that. Probably will work well for us, and with the parents' continued help, of course. Then LEAP days. What is LEAP days? Molly Spearman thought of this. She has heard the cry of parents throughout the state. Our children have missed so much time. But she's also heard the cry from us. We're thankful there was no state testing, thank goodness. However, how do we know where children are? we lost a good bit of school time, and that's the best learning period for kids towards the end, and we don't have any of those results to tell us how much they grew, how much they fell back, or whichever. So we know how to place them properly to give them the best avenues of growth. And so Leap Days was discovered. She'll do 5 days, which teachers will be paid their daily rate. Whatever they get has been factored in if they agree to do this, and it's optional. A teacher does not have to do this. These 5 days does not count in the 180 or 190 days. These are just 5 days if you want to come in, get to know your kids, and do whatever. So this is based on us trying to bring the kids in at least half the class. Again, if health conditions warrant otherwise, then we'll have to back and punt on that. But we'll be surveying the parents on how many of you would like to take part in that, because it's optional for them also. And we would have, we'll just have to work with the numbers that we have, trying to use it as a time to evaluate and analyze where kids are, and then spend a day at least giving in-service on how to use their new computer. They will take the computer home. If we get a second day, they come back with their computer agreement, which is very thick, telling them what they can and cannot do with the computers, and asking for the parents to sign to support the taking care of and the proper use of computers and following our policies, which we're going to enforce. So that will be very important for us to make the connection. If we don't do any of those 5 days, then we will have to use that the first days of school. Molly's thing, Ms. Bierman's philosophy is that if we can get some of this out of the way, day one can be a full teaching day. In other words, we're just trying to send a message. We don't want to waste any more time than we have to, but with young children in particular, now with all the technology, we have to have best practices, protocols. That's what elementary teachers do the first week of school, at least the first couple of days, are teaching the children how to navigate the building and all now. We'll have to teach them how to navigate social distancing with half their class or whatever might be there. Whatever the things we're faced with, we need to discuss this so the kids understand that, and they feel comfortable being in the school setting if that's what we decide we can possibly do for them. All right. Yes. Right. That's when we would do it. We would do one by one. The school psychologists work their contracts. They will be working with IEPs and all. All of that will be done by the school administration of each school. Will make sure whoever needs to be there are there. Then the other ones, like the universal screeners that we give, the reading inventory and all, that will be very much based on if the teachers are available and how many students are willing to come. But we really need that information. But that's not critical. But the kindergarten testing, the psychological testing, IEPs are critical and have to be done. They're legal issues. So we'll administer the assessments during that period. I did it again. That's not going to work, ma'am. I think that you're going to need a bigger table, a bigger ledge, or a younger man. So you got 3 choices. And I think the third one's not going to happen unless we have a volunteer in the audience. Yeah, this is a ledge sitting right here. I didn't either. I didn't pay attention to it. Okay. And work with small groups of children, analyzing the results that we have, of course, practice the protocols and what have you. All that's going to be funded by South Carolina, the State Department's CARES Act money. She took that off the top. That's not coming out of district money. That's her money. That's her baby, her goal. She wants to send a message to parents. I'm hearing you. I'm doing the best I can, but it's only grades 4K through 8. It's not the high school grades, and we're a little disappointed on that. Now, that doesn't mean we can't do it at the high school, but for us to pay the teachers' daily rate, their benefits, and all the other stuff that go along with it, that's a budget item we at this time don't feel we can do. I still haven't ruled out completely 9th grade, but somebody had a reason today why we couldn't do just 9th grade. Does somebody remember that from my staff? We can still do 9th grade if we want to, right? Because that's one we have to test, we may want to do something with them. And since it's their first year and high school, it's a very scary thing. That's the hardest grade now, it's ninth grade. So that might be a good transition for those students. We used to bring them in the summer when we could, a day or two. This would replace that. And so we're going to look at that as a possibility, and maybe we'll have that finalized by next week. The adjusted calendar options. We have 3 options. If we do the leap days, we would begin them on the day that's already set aside. August 10th would be the first day through the 14th. Teachers, instead of beginning on the 10th, would then move back a week to the 17th. Students would begin on the 24th. That's option 1. So there will be a calendar change if y'all agree to it. Option 2, leap days August 17th to August 21st. Teachers then begin August 24th, and students begin August 31st. Option 3 would be leap days August 24th to August 28th. Teachers begin on August 31st, and students begin September 8th, the day after Labor Day. Horry County has announced today that's where they're going to do after Labor Day, so they've already decided that. Many districts in the state are looking at that. Charleston County announced Saturday, I think it was in the paper, or maybe Sunday, that they're looking at, they pretty well said the 31st. Berkeley, as of this morning, and they've changed several times, was looking at the 24th. So all 3 of those are being done very locally, and it's just sort of up in the air. And everybody's looking at it, and I hope that by this time next week, as we make our decision, we will be able to tell you how it's looking around the state, how it's chalking up. The advantage of waiting to late, I don't want to do late, but I am such a optimistic person when it comes to this, because I've been waiting for months and it's only got worse instead of better, the rate. But I'm hoping that some news on a vaccine will pop up at the end of the month as they're promising, and at the same time the rates begin to finally show some growth downward. That delaying really might help us not have to change the schedule once we start. We don't want to be like Israel and some other countries. They started too soon. Everybody bragged how quickly they started. They went a couple of days, weeks, and they had to shut their schools down because it was raging among staff and students. And so we don't wish to have that happen. So we don't want to have a tragedy to wake us up. And again, it's a lot of what ifs out there. We have no control over any of them, but that would give us a little bit of time. Also, computers. Our computers are coming from China. They're all promised to me to be here no later than August 31st. So I hate to have kids come and they don't get their computers. So even if we don't do the leap days, the 31st looks like probably could be the day our group will probably decide. Labor Day still being there based on if there's any sign that that little bit of extra days would give us some initiative, because you're talking about 4 more school days. Now that puts us a little later in June, but look what happened here. We didn't get to make the spring up. And I'm concerned about missing school due to hurricanes. I'm worried about missing school during for this virus if it makes a second wave back, as many have said it would in the fall and the winter. However, we are an e-learning district now. We are accepted by the state of South Carolina because every child will have access to a computer, and therefore we would be doing things by computer if we have inclement weather, and those days do not have to be made up. So we won't be losing time. It'll just be done by computer. Yes, ma'am.
Computers don't come in until 31st?
The last ones. A bunch of them are here. Somerville High Schools are being delivered right now. Ashley Ridge already has theirs. Austin has theirs. I mean, they're coming in by school. Well, the high schools, we won't be probably doing the leap days. We might do something for 9th grade to give them an orientation type thing, but that's not what happened there.
How do you see those options at the high school level and some of the middle school affecting their exam schedules? Is that
Well, right now,
any concern?
exams, we try to do things before Christmas. but it looks like that's going to be very difficult to do. If we were coming in on the first one, we can work that out. No, I think it's still mid-January. Is that right, Ms. Canaran? Yes, sir, we're still. So we're already out of that window now.
Okay.
So exams, we're already out of that no matter which one of these we go to. So if you're going to be out, I wouldn't let that be the reason why not. Okay, and of course, we have some built-in weather days, like I said, that we would not have to use, and we can put them back in the calendar as makeup days, the days that at Thanksgiving where we're looking at the fall break, that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we would just not do the Monday and Tuesday. We now saw that ahead of time, we could pick up some days that way.
Well, Mr. Pine, now that you're taking some questions real quick, if our community goes from a high risk to a low risk, would we change mid-year, or once you start, do you stay on that for the whole year?
We would change as quick as we could, and because we already have the schedules done and things, we would just have to add the new kids who came in, but then we'd do reverse. Instead of, right now, we're looking at the traditional schedule to help place them in virtual school and whatever else we're doing. We would reverse it. Wherever they are in virtual school, we would turn around and try to complement it back with us, and it'd be coming out on an as-need basis, probably at a semester, definitely in 9 weeks. We would not do it in the middle of the 9 weeks.
Sure.
It's way too disruptive with grades and assessments. We'd want to at least finish a cycle, but we wouldn't want to wait too terribly long if things are there, because that is what the public has said. They want the kids back, and we all do, but we just want a safe environment.
Thank you.
All right, other questions? None? And remember now, this is only a draft. It could change. I'd like to think that 90% of this you will see again, but maybe more defined as to which model we're going to do, and we decide on which calendar date. Then I think we'll be closer to giving the public then something really to wrap their arms around. But we wanted to give a snapshot now, so people, they're already planning to come back the 1st of August. Look at that and see, especially the parents who are most upset about the virus is raging, why now? They might see an option. We could get a few weeks, and they may weigh on that as being something they see in the best interest of their child. Our teachers the same way. So we just thought we'd put out the things that we have. We're still taking suggestions. It's just that the people making the suggestions are great suggestions, but they don't know the whole story. We know the whole story, and yet again, I learn something new every day. Every time I come in, I had it worked out I was going to bring in all the 5K, all the first grades and second grades every day for at least 3 hours, face-to-face with their teacher in a self-contained room. And then they have the afternoon with the computers that we would work on and do. Transportation is letting me know the 4-year-old schedule where it is. I can't use that schedule. We would not be able to get the buses back in time to do. We'd have to cut back those programs and stuff. So it just didn't work. It said it's so good on paper, but I thought I had really come upon something that I could do.
Those 4-year-olds could go home when the other ones go home.
They are already going home. It's just we don't have the buses to run because of the other things we have to do. It just was not enough. We're tight, and I'm worried if we have enough bus drivers to run those routes. But every teacher may not be needed. If we do the virtual kind of thing, we're going to have some situations where we may not have a teacher's course offered. So what are you going to do? You're under contract. We don't want to dismiss them. So we may be reassigning people whose courses can't be met or done as a last resort, maybe to do some other things for us, such as in like coaching supplements. They're nothing. Ours is the lowest in South Carolina, and I'm not going to punish anybody with that because spring sports will still probably happen, and most of our coaches go 2 ways. However, my luck, it would start in the middle of the season, and you've got to have that stuff already prorated. So what we would do is make them, all of them have CDL license. They would then help us use the activity buses and our own buses, which is like 20-something of them, and they can help us run routes in the absence of drivers. So we got a plan for everybody. Our at wills, if we have kids at home and we don't have the need for at wills, we do have places where we need help. They might be bus monitors. We got lots of places that we might could use the help to make sure we have the proper supervision for children. So we're thinking about everything out of the box. People just don't know all the ins and outs, and there's no silver bullet. If it was, Spartanburg would be doing it, Greenville would be doing it, Richland too, Lexington, all of them have their plans done. And I've got access to every one of them. And we've looked at everything we can move to our area to do. And most of it is, but there's some interesting things there. What is really the best fit at the end of the day? So all we can do now is to educate the public on the few options we have and see if we get any kind of feedback, or you get feedback that indicates that of the models, this is the best one for our district. And right now, in the absence of really knowing what that is and people understanding that, then I'm hanging my hat on the health agencies. Even though they're making recommendations, they're not going to tell us what we have to do. But if they're out there saying this is unsafe and they continue to rate us as high risk, then I think we ought to heed that advice, especially since we're starting new. In the middle of the year, it's hard to call something and go backwards. But how you can start slow and go to where you want to go rather than go high and go backwards. I think that would be that'd be awful. And to go backwards after maybe some people's lives have been lost. Okay? Hate to end on that bad note. But thank y'all for listening.
Mr. Pye, didn't you also say, though, that because of hurricanes and bad weather, that we would still be able to do the e-learning? So that we
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah,
have to make up any
absolutely.
days?
We were going to do that anyway. That's what makes it a little bit easier for us, is that we were ready. Where last year we couldn't do any of that. We were just really in bad shape. This spring, I have to take my hats off to our principals and our parents and our teachers. They did the best they could with nothing. Y'all, when we have nothing, we had to invent this overnight. Our governor gave us exactly about 2 hours notice. There was no time to call teachers in to make the plans. You just don't start at scratch and sit down and decide, and then you told you're probably going to be out of school for a month, and it turns out to be 5 months. Our people we weren't prepared for this. I threw our whole nation in a frenzy. And so as I look and talk to other school districts, ours was not perfect. It was not probably something I'd want to model anywhere in the country. However, I know of no place that did it better than us, and they were e-learning districts and we were not. I'll leave it on that note. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pye.
Are we okay if can I have just a couple minutes? Are we opening up for discussion?
Yeah, that's where we are.
I do want to thank you because I know this has taken a long time, and I just do want to, and I'm going to let everybody make a comment. Our district has always been a district of great civility. This is something that is brand new. We've never done this in the history, and a lot of us are older than others, but no one has ever. We've had explosions, we've had fires, we've had hurricanes, 1,000-year floods, but we've never had this. And I just hope in the next week we will, as we've always done, continue that civility. Of course, we do have policies about bullying and harassment, and we wouldn't want any of our teachers to feel that they were being harassed by other teachers, or any of us feel like they were being harassed. Everybody has a point of view, and we need to be open-minded and listen. But you have done such due diligence. I know this cabinet has worked hour upon hour.
Raise your hand, cabinet. Raise your hand.
All of them.
They have worked.
Yes.
They're the people. This is their report to me. 57 pages. You got 8 of them.
Wow.
8
Correct.
pages summarized. This is 57 pages of ideas and recommendations.
And this is not something you've done hastily. You have spent hours with the governor, with other superintendents, with your cabinet, with DHEC, with the health department, with county, with town. We know that you have struggled, as all superintendents have, but personally as a chairman, I want to thank you very much for all of y'all and what you've done. And we pray that this gets over with soon, because we love our kids and we want them back. But
I want them back.
I know.
I'm ready to work again, real work, not this kind of work.
I know.
Real work.
So I wanted everybody to have a second if they had a question or a comment. We can start with Evan and work our way.
Yeah, I just had a question, I guess, the protocol for testing teachers. Is that going to be sort of anything that's going to be mandated, or what's the policy?
All right, that will come when we do the final presentation, because that's some of the stuff in the 57 pages of all the things we worked on, subcommittees. that one, I would say, is complete. There might be a couple of things that y'all might want to weigh in on to say, yes, we think we should take the temperature of the teachers and the students if we bring them on campus, at least the hybrid model, until we get to that layer. If that's something you think, fine. It's recommended that they wear masks. I know we're worried about our teachers our psychologists, our speech teachers, where they have to, their lips have to be, in first and second grade teachers, where they're teaching sounds and reading, they have to be seen, their lips. So we've got those shields. We're ordering those shields for all our preschool type and early educators. That'll be there for them, and we have others for the teachers who just really feel more comfortable. We have plenty of masks coming. The state of South Carolina is sending us 5 masks per person. The mask that we're thinking with the shields is a new one that's made like a mask with the shield in it, so it's clear and you can see. You don't have to cover your eyes up, and this part of your face is covered, so you're not coughing out and germs coming out the side. It's the latest and the best, and we're on top of all of that. So all the protocols, once they're decided, we'll have what we call recommended to, we think that's good, and we're going to have some that we may require and tell the public this is part of what we have here. I'm just finding it interesting that some of the school districts that might be trying to start off bringing kids in even on a hybrid model and no masks or anything, I don't feel good about that. Now the older kids I'm talking about. Now the younger ones, I want to see what kindergarten teacher can keep the mask on the children for more than 5 minutes. I think we have to start giving away televisions, the microwave ovens for them to do. They're not going to do it.
Shooting them.
Other questions?
Yeah, I would just start and echo what Ms. Robinson said earlier. That thank you guys. The task force alone, the countless man hours that you guys have put into this. I don't know that the public maybe quite understands what the district has put into just coming up with what we've got and what we've seen tonight. You talk about, and this is really for the board, you talk about an impossible situation that we are up against. It is impossible, and we've all been inundated with the emails and the messages and the calls. The problem is it doesn't matter what the decision is. It doesn't matter. I've heard from parents that are diehard, they're ready to go back to school, they want to go back to school. I've heard from parents that say it is a death sentence to send our kids back to school. So you got both spectrums there. I've heard from teachers that are diehard, they're ready to go back and get back in the classrooms, they're excited, they're ready to go. And I've got other teachers that say it is a death sentence for you to put us back in the classroom. That's an impossible situation. I don't know how you solve for that. You really can't. But I think to Ms. Robinson's point, I think civility, we would just ask for grace and civility. And from our part, the options, Mr. Pye and I have talked about this. I think at the end of the day, the best that we're going to be able to come up with, because there is no good answer, there's no right or wrong, there's no good answer, the best we're going to be able to do is give people options. We've got to give our parents options, we've got to give our kids options, we've got to give our teachers options, and the rest we've got to leave up to them. They've got to do the research, they've got to figure out what makes sense for them to move forward. So all that said, I did just have a couple of very quick questions on the virtual piece. So if someone chooses the virtual piece, and you may have already said this, so I apologize. If they choose to go virtual 100%, can they then switch back to a traditional model later in the year?
If we are offering the traditional model and that there are spaces, my guess is if it really drops down particularly anywhere near low, we're going to be begging the virtual school kids to come back because we are going to have to move the teachers. I've got to have the teachers back where we hired them in the classroom. Right now, I'm going to have upward to maybe 100 teachers to choose to do virtual. We have about that many who have said they're interested and would do it. That we're going to have to depend on them. If they want a job and we got to service the kids, that is their way to cover. We have many who want to stay virtual forevermore. If this works out well, we'll probably always have a virtual school. It may not be as big as we have it, but there's no reason for our children to have to go to Connections in South Carolina virtual, other places when we have it here. We don't want to lose our relationship with our children. We want to know where they are, and we get credit for them. We want to know they're on our rolls so we can track them and know where they ended up for our high school graduation rate and all. We have to know where these kids are located. They just can't, because when they leave us, they tell us they went to Connections Academy. We know that, but if they leave Connections Academy, we have no way of knowing where they went then. So later when we go to prove that they were our student, we may have a hard time tracing down where they went so that they truly were, they didn't drop out. They truly are somewhere being served.
It's still on the virtual thing, or on the virtual piece, is there a way, or do we have an opportunity for parents to potentially see what that environment looks like prior to them making that selection?
I don't know what it looks like, so I can't answer that question. Ms. Purvis, we will have what? Yeah, the orientation night. When they come, we will show clips of how it looks.
Okay.
We'll have your role as a parent, the role of the student, the
So
role
will
of the
that be,
student.
is that designed for folks that are pre-selection of that program? Yes, sir. Okay.
Are interested in it. After that night, they call us the next day and say, we want to be in it.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure. I had some
It's
folks
a
reach
recruiting
out
night.
that said they
That
wanted
would
to
be
see
more
it.
than 10 people together.
Yep.
It's a recruiting night. Well, we'll work. We may have to have multiple nights. I hope we have that big of a turnout.
On the note of what, oh, I'm sorry.
The last thing that I've got, and it gets a little bit into the weeds, so I apologize, but I think it is important, looking at the hybrid model, so where you've got the classroom teacher, they go an A and B day, on the off day where they're doing some of that virtual learning, is it that same classroom teacher that's doing that virtual learning? For instance, are they keeping that same teacher, basically?
Yes, if it's elementary and if it's middle, it'll be, all their teachers on that schedule could have a piece of that time. Is that correct? Their middle or high school, their math teacher could connect with them, their language arts teacher, but the ones who are in self-contained rooms, which are our elementary students, they will be their classroom teacher who's following up, doing stuff. That's a chance for our teachers like doing Read 180 and some of those models also can do extra catching up to catch these struggling students up, as well as our gate teachers to try to continue advancing our advanced students. So we want to use every minute to do everything we can to get children to reach their highest potential.
Got it. Thank you guys again. I want to
To
leave plenty of
piggyback
time.
off of what Justin said, may I ask, have you had a response from your teachers of how many are not coming back because of this? Or have you had any kind of response?
I've had some to indicate that if we didn't do virtual, they weren't coming back. I had some who said we didn't do traditional, they're not coming back. We get that, and I understand that because of health conditions, other type situations. More talk than reality. No one has quit at this point in time. If anything, I've lost a half dozen teachers to the other sources of virtual school because they want to stay home with their babies and do things, and they like that schedule of virtual school, and they opted to do it. So that's what we're competing with. But so we're competing for our own students, because when they withdraw the students, the funding is withdrawn. Keep in mind, if 1,000 students leave us, you divide 1,000 by our general number of 22. That's how many teachers I'm over allocated. I have no money to pay their salaries. So guess what? They're furloughed. Something has to happen. We cannot continue to justify the salaries if we don't have the teachers. But I know what's going to happen. Everybody's going to go to virtual. As soon as this thing does calm down, they're all coming back. I know they are. So we got to have a way to make sure that we keep the lines open so that no one has to struggle too terribly long to get everybody in the right place. Just right now, we're in a holding pattern trying to make the best of a bad situation. But the ultimate goal is to get back to some normalcy. That is our goal, and the sooner the better, without jerking children around in the process. Starting school, stopping school, that kind of stuff. I'm real worried about that.
Yeah.
All right, these are great questions. Gail.
To begin with, I want to kind of, again, echo what Ms. Robinson and Mr. Farnsworth had said about the cabinet. And, of course, you know, the thing is we can always depend on the information that, Mr. Pye, that you bring to us, as knowing that it is very well research-based. You have done your homework. You have checked with everybody there is to check with, and we understand that, so we know that the information we get is the latest and the greatest of the information that's out there to be gotten. So we appreciate all of that you, not only in this situation, but that you always do for us. And it does make our job and our decision-making a whole lot easier. So thank you again, all of you, for all of that work that you've done. And I think the important thing here to know is that where the final decision is being made, sitting, I guess, between this group here that's done the homework and this group that's sitting up here as to what's going to happen or what way we're going to go, what direction we're going to go in. We also know that it's also based on information that's coming down from the state of South Carolina. So I think we need to keep that in mind. And when the civility, we talk about the civility, when all of that is, we're looking at all of that, understand that we're the bearer, possibly the bearer of bad news. We're having to take information that's coming down from the state of South Carolina, and we're having to follow those guidelines. And we are looking at what is best for not only our teachers, not only our students, not only our parents. We're looking for what's best for everybody, the community in general. So saying that, I know that the homework's done. I feel confident in what you've told us, and know that in the coming days, things could possibly change tomorrow as to what has happened. And as long as we have this information and we keep getting updated information, we're going to do what's the best thing for most of our people in this district. So also a question that I had, Mr. Farnsworth kind of touched on it with the virtual school, and if a student was going to be allowed to go back or stay, would they be allowed to stay? What if you have a parent that has, for instance, we've gone halfway through the school year and their student has been on virtual school for all of this time because of the ratings of the COVID. It does go down to low, and we do bring them back. Are we going to have any teachers that will possibly be available if you've got a parent that says, I don't want to switch my child now. It's better for my child to stay on virtual school for the rest of the year.
I think you'll have enough of those to compensate for the ones who are already there that might want to change out and come. Because same thing with private schools and all of them are thriving because people see them as smaller and able to do maybe more than we can. I don't think that's true, but that's what people might think. And so they're making those decisions, and then once our doors open back up and people see what we're offering, they will come as they always do. They'll come back and we will accommodate them. That will be a good problem. I would like to think I was short on teachers and I could come to y'all and beg to help me find some way to trade something out. Maybe each one of you give your car up and we'll go ahead and buy a teacher with it, okay?
One more question. I know that during this process, you have also reached out to daycares, after-school programs, that kind of thing. Can you tell me what the results were from you reaching out to that?
I'll just give a perfect example. I checked the Y when they changed directors. He came to me and said they were used to doing the child care programs in the schools. Of course, I told him we had a very healthy program, and I didn't see a need at the time. This was back last, maybe December, November. It was early on, way before any of this stuff came. Well, I've called him since and arranged an appointment. He came and we spoke by phone. It was a phone conference. And he is willing to help any way possible. They have the staffing. They know how to train. They know how to run them, successful ones. He just needs locations. So my minister had called me for an appointment, which I thought was to get after him and give more money to the church, or maybe I should go more often. I was all procrastinating. I was getting beat up by the minister, and I kept postponing the meeting. Till he finally sent a note and said, fella, all I want to do is help the schools. How can I help you and your teachers and your staff? What can the church do? Our church is praying for you. We're real concerned that maybe we could offer something, but we don't know. Please tell us what we can do. Well, let lights go on. Child care. We have young children there, but I want school-age children to have another option. So they're willing to do it on their own, and 50, 75 kids worth. They're also willing to partner with the Y, so I've set them in the Y up. They're meeting. I'm out of it. They're just helping me, and I'll give them credit wherever I go, and we'll refer people to them. But whatever arrangement they have for liability, cost, how they manage it, the training, the DHEC rules will be between them. So I don't have to get out and get involved and have people complaining about separation of church and state and those kinds of things, where this is a Durham community emergency, and we don't have time for that kind of stuff. We're trying to, I may take a room, I don't care where you're from and what you're teaching or practicing. I just need a space to take care of our kids so their parents can work and feel comfortable that their children are safe and being taken care of. So we also have plenty of computers that will be left with the refurbishment. We told them we could maybe give those to the churches or donate them, whatever we need to do to put them in all this. We have assignments, so it dawned on me, we're one-to-one.
They all have
We don't need to hook up anything, just bring your computer. You just might need to have internet service for the kids or whatever. Maybe they could invest in hotspots or something to help us have a space for them to hook up. So that was that. Now we're working with all the daycares to see if they can expand their programs. Once the decision's been made, can you accommodate this, but will you be flexible enough to change to this? Because we're not doing this all year. That's not our plan. We're not going to do it for just a week and call you. We'll do it for an ample amount of time, and when it's right, we want to change to, we might even skip a level. Let's hope that happens, and we could do that. So we want them to be flexible, and I think from what I'm hearing, they're anxious to help us. So we can tell our, and then we were going to do our program. We cannot afford our program anymore as we've been doing it. Number one, I have no spaces. If I have to bring back half the kids, I need the gym, the cafeteria, I need the media centers. I have no place to put them. So if we don't pick up enough in the community, that could be an issue. So now we've decided that we are working on a plan. Ms. Bishop is very creative. She wants very much to keep her program. She realizes, like everything else, it's never going to be the same. She's like pulling IT. She can't come up with a model that's not a model she already has. She keeps going back, we can't do that anymore. Come up with some other models. So we hope that we can give our staff, of course, when we talk about, it's not just the teachers, we offer daycare possibilities for all of our staff members. It may look differently, but we would like to put on there Somerville Baptist Church, Presbyterian Church, Bethany, the Catholic Church. We'd like to put in all the churches that's involved. The YMCA has their programs. And here's what Dorchester 2 is going to do. If we're on a model where the teacher is teaching and her child is, she's an Ashley Ridge teacher and her child's at Beach Hill, or she's at Beach Hill, the child, or vice versa. The child can come there for the daycare part at the school or stay there. And mama gets off from Ashley Ridge, she drives by and picks the child up. So we would have after-school possibilities. And then if we do where we have days, the 3 days, that we could have, since the teacher will be encumbered with students those 3 days, her students, their child would be home with their school-age kid. So therefore, they would have, and all these people that I've talked to, the Baptist Church, they want to concentrate on those full days and let us do the half days like we've always done. I think there's room to do both. I think we're going to need it. I think we will have hundreds of people looking for childcare options. Now, I'm hoping that people will be smart enough in these neighborhoods where they all hang out and socialize and carpool and all this stuff. Why can't somebody take turns? They're not working moms. Would they be willing to keep 4 or 5 of the friends together in the afternoons at their home and work that out? I'm hoping that people will do that. Just like we're going to ask parents if there's any way you can bring your children to and from school or carpool them, we would appreciate it because we need every slot we can for the people who can't provide transportation. All these things, meals. So the days that the children aren't here, the law says I have to furnish them food, the free reduced lunch kids. So we have to make sure we have meals being prepared every day. As you know, we're outsourcing, so we're working with Sodexo on how can that be done. And if it's going to be for 2 days in a row, they can take home that day the stuff they're going to need for the next 2 days. We're going to fix a way to get it in the home if we have to do multiple lunches at one time, or breakfasts. And it'll be the type of thing that will keep and be non-perishable. That's what we're going to work on until we get to the next phase.
Well,
Mr. Hyde,
I'm sorry.
go ahead. What Gail was saying about daycares, like at our church, they send a bus out and pick up kids after school.
Most of them do.
So then that means that they have to be open all day because they'll have to take the kids that are in the morning time on the days that they're A or B,
Right.
and keep them all day on the days, like the other 3 days, correct?
But they were willing to do both.
I'm just saying, so that
Just like
means,
we're willing to do both if we possibly can work it out. I think at the end of the day, we're going to have probably double the spots we had last year.
double
in the
spots for
community.
what?
Double the spots for childcare.
Oh,
We're going
For
to need
community
double.
and for teachers
Need
and
double.
bus drivers, everybody else. I think it's not going to be less than. I know that's not our responsibility, but we know that if it's a community problem that does affect us, if not, at least indirectly, and we want to help parents to feel comfortable that their children are safe after, before, and on days that they're not in the school, that they have safe places to go. So we'll be working, and I'm not going to support sending out a name to anybody that I think is a fly-by-night stuff. We're not having that. In other words, I can easily put down several Baptists, because it's my church, and I know it'll be first class and not at all. And as we meet with these people, I would insist if they want me to, I'm not saying endorse them, but to put them on a master list that's circulated, these are some possibilities, check them out, resources, then I need them to make sure they run a first-class program. And see, I know the Y will do that. And I can imagine all the churches I named, they already do it. The church at Canaan, wonderful business partner. Brownsville, we already have Cathedral of Praise. These churches have a long time worked with us. They've always been great supporters we've counted on.
are all kids going to have bag lunches every day?
That could happen.
I mean, because we won't have hot
It
lunches.
depends on what the schedule we do and how we do it, but there'll be more of that, especially for the children that are going to be gone for 2 days. They have no transportation back to get their meals, and the law says we have to give them the meal. And of course, I want them to have the meal, but I'll be the only one they get. So we will have to work all that out. And I don't think we're going to have the wherewithal to deliver it to their houses, but we will have centers maybe they can pick them up in. I know some school districts use places like Walmart, believe it or not, that a section of the store taken care of and somebody there from the school system sitting there giving out those lunches during a period of time. And people could go there and pick it up, so it didn't have to be just a school site. They went out to different places, especially in the rural areas, to a little convenience store or service station, and they were able to get the lunches out. See, these are things that the average person doesn't think that we have. All of that has to be done, and it all has to fit any one of the models that we're doing.
Even the virtual school, you're going to have to feed those?
No, we won't have to feed the virtual. Now, the ones in our virtual school will get the computers from us. They will be furnished the computer, but they'll be on our roles. They're our students. They're just being taught virtually. They'll have all the same connections, and we're going to put administrators at every school. There will be a person that's over the virtual students in that school, and they're to make contact daily to know how these people are doing, what's happening. And we know the concerns of a parent just so upset it's not working, and we have space in that school. Come on. It'll be first come, first serve. If we know there's a problem and we can easily document it's not happening, the child refuses to do the work, the parents aren't there to supervise, we know putting them with a class, more structured environment will be the only way we get any work at all out of them. We will work hard to make that happen. Okay?
Lisa?
Anything else?
No, I had questions, but they were already answered.
Already answered.
Yes, thank you.
You have anything?
Any, Mr. Mitchell?
I used to could say since I was a teacher that I could feel their pain, but I can't because I never went through any of this. None of us did.
None of us have.
So-
I hope I never have to do this
You
again.
know, I went through Hugo and I went through all that and dealt with that, but I can't even imagine what these teachers are going through, and I appreciate them for what they're doing as well as the cabinet and all that y'all are doing, because like everybody has said, it takes,
Sunday night, I was the beast. My wife said, I cannot wait till school starts tomorrow. You have got to go. Please think about spending the week there. I'm willing for you to buy a house and you just stay there. You don't have to commute back and forth. You just go ahead and stay down there, because I'm tired of hearing about all these things. You, from one thing to the other, you're steady on the phone. You hang up. You think you've made peace, and then 10 minutes later, I hear you in there talking to yourself. You fuss about the whole thing. What do they mean we're going to do so and so? I'm not about to do that. I can't believe they said that to me. It was like, why did you say that to them 10 minutes earlier when you had on class? Well, I didn't think about it. It just dawned on me what I was hearing. So I came in with fire, and I told my staff, I'm loaded. I'm in here. It's not going to be pretty today. I'm tired, we're gonna get this stuff done, I've gotta have this stuff done this week. I had this presentation that I decided Saturday morning that we're doing, 1, 2, 3, and had Lee and Pat on the phone, didn't ask anybody about what they thought, we're gonna do this, thought about the meeting for the 20th. So I'm setting all these deadlines, no committee that I promised we were gonna be part of this. It's like, I gotta feel like I'm taking charge. I gotta get a hold of this. I just not gonna have my arms around it. So I felt better, but once we got going, I realized it's what's happening all along. It's the people that I work with that drive it. They drive it home. I fuss, but they did it. Still
The other
doing it.
thing is, I'd just like to piggyback off what they said. You know, we do have a daunting task, and you're wanting that, if I understand it correctly, is that next Monday, the board will make a decision on what
Yes.
day we start.
I should hope we're there unless something happens different. But you know,
And
we're in a state where the governor could call up and say, we're going to have school and you're going to do your first plan. We're not having any virtual, and I'm not going to allow that. And he's the governor. And guess what? We do it just like we did when he said you're calling school off. And I mean, it's off. And it's off to further notice. And then the State Department says, and you will teach nothing new. These children can't help their off. We can't be expecting students who may not have a computer to do school work. You're not going to grade, you're not going to do anything. What kind of school is that? We thought, well, for 3 or 4 weeks, we could do anything. Well, it turned out to be months. And then when they realized it wasn't going to happen, then they had the nerve to say, well, we want you to take a grade, and you need to teach some new stuff for schools. That well, we had 3 weeks to go. That kind of thing is just so unsettling, but they, like we are, they don't know, they've never experienced it. I just wish that we wouldn't have to deal with the politics of Washington and the politics of Columbia. They're in my way, so it's a simple.
so I'm just finished. So just to reiterate, for like next Monday night, we're going to make a decision, depending on the numbers, of course, on whether or not, what dates they go back to school. And we're going to make a decision on which models we're going to go with.
Yes, ma'am. That's our
And-
plan.
Huh?
That's my plan, and if for
Okay,
some
and-
reason it changes, then we wouldn't have no need to have the meeting if it's early enough to change it, or we would get the message out to all of our parents and community, because we wouldn't want any surprise. I don't want nobody to come here and think that all of a sudden, well, we decided we're not going to do this. I can imagine us not. We have got to make a decision. Parents have still got to look for their child care. They've got to look for other options. If they don't like these options, they still have to choose the virtual school option if that's still in their cards. A lot of things these families have to do, and we owe this to them as quick as we possibly can. And frankly, this is as quick as I know, but we are running out of time. I'd like to give a month's notice minimum. to our
Can you give us an update on how the sports programs are going to go?
I'll be honest with you, I thought very little about that because I want to get the kids in school. If they're not in school, there will be no sports as long as I'm superintendent. I'm not going to have a ball game going on and people aren't in school. There's something wrong with that problem, that story. It puts sports and athletics above academics, and I'm not wired that way. So hopefully through some of these models, if we're doing half and half, then we're back on target to continue doing the practices and the games. High risk is where we are now. We're not doing anything. I think, but if we get to moderate risk, I think we're back there. There's talk about, just like it is with college, doing the football in the spring. That's being talked about. Volleyball, all of our fall sports coming up in the spring, and everybody does this in the spring. The only problem is, if we get this again going on next spring, we are not able to have it, then our kids have lost their year, possibly eligibility, or their senior, their last year of participating. Maybe a scholarship could be contested because they didn't get to play to show what their true skills were. So we do have to look at that. I was being a little bit facetious when I said that, but it'll be factored around whatever we do in here. Okay. It'll dovetail every extracurricular activity, including after-school care and all, has to fit what we're doing during school. Okay.
Mr. Mitchell? Brian?
I think I forgot what I was going to say.
I forgot I called on you.
Yeah. Everybody echoed questions and sentiments that I had thought of as well, and you got all your bases covered at this point in time. We can't predict the future. All we can do is be as prepared as possible for it, and it sounds like that's what we are in DD2. So I congratulate you and your team, the community members, the students, the teachers, everybody who's had a hand in that 58-page volume of work. So, you know, we are as ready, just like I knew we would be, we are as ready for anything that hits us because DD2 is a team and we work together, and we will make it through this. This too will pass. In the meantime, we're going to be prepared one way or the other. We've got options for our students. Everybody's going to have a seat at the table. Everybody's going to be able to make their decision knowing that we have all the information that we need to make the best decision. And one last question, can you provide us with an update on two things? Number one, the food service during the summer to the students and the missing students in DD2 that we hadn't really been able to account for. Maybe you could provide us with an update on that?
The missing students, we just did that final report for the state legislature and for Molly Spearman to give. We're turning those names over to DSS, who's promised that they will activate the neglect of parents to see the children who are mandated to be in school or not. We have called, we have actually spoken to people face to face, and they refuse to send their children to school, let alone have them do any work. So we did have a small number. The school with the largest number of no-shows was Somerville High School with 9. And they have 3,200 students, 9. Now what percentage is that? Most of the schools in this district, 15 of the 24 schools, well, 25 if you count Give Hands, and Give Hands was at 0. They had 0. All students, they made contact with every single child at 15 of the schools. So it was at 10 of them. The high schools like Ashley Ridge had 2. Fort Dorchester, 0 high school. These are high schools. That's unheard of. Because you would think those kids just decided, I'm withdrawing, I'm dropping out, which they do anytime during the year. It's very difficult when they're past, a certain age. They can say, I'm out of here, and there's nothing anybody can do to them. So we felt real good about those numbers. I think the highest elementary number was like 5, and the school has like 1,000 students. So again, I was a little disappointed with that. Our thing is, they obviously have moved. They had relatives in another state, and with all this going on and maybe losing a job, they just decided to pick up roots and leave. What we hope will happen is that we can finally bring resolution whenever school starts back in their state or wherever they might be. They have to ask for records from here, and therefore that we hope to be able to find out that all of them really had a home and they're not missing, that there is a place that they might be located. Okay? And the other one was the lunches during the summer. Anything changed about that? We have the same sites we've had the whole time.
We have 6 out of the 8 sites still operating. The summer meal feeding program is following the same trend as our past summers. It's less than during the school year, probably because of summer childcare. Oh, my nurses could take care of that. The summer meals are lower than what we did in March through, let's just say, the end of June. And a lot of that is because we feel like families and parents have alternate childcare plans in the summer, and so not as many need it. But we still are open at 6 of our 8 sites, and we will continue that through July. Sodexo does have plans, if it is requested by the State Department, for us to continue into August. We will certainly do that as well. And so we monitor it every day, and it's going as we anticipated it. Yes, sir.
When is Sodexo supposed to start?
They are on board.
Okay.
Yeah, completely on board. where they met with employees several times, again tomorrow maybe?
Yes, sir. We met, the district team met with the employees twice before July 1st, and then Sodexo met with the managers last week, had a wonderful, very good meeting, and we have a series of meetings scheduled for tomorrow and Wednesday for the other employees so that the transition will be smooth going forward. So they're already working on meal plans, meal options. They are in other locations throughout the state who are in our same situation, so they have options for hybrid models. They know the various options that are being talked about around the state, and they are planning accordingly. So they have been nothing but cooperative and really stepped up to the table and generated some excitement and, making sure that we don't miss a beat.
Because they're a national company, they're dealing with this all over the country. So they're hearing about maybe some places that's reinventing the wheel in a better way. So they're able to pass it to us. So if you're going to go with somebody experienced that's already out front of the curve of this. Of course, they're being held to high standards because of Canty and what they've done for us in the way of outsourcing. I've read them the Riot Act, and they've got a tall order to measure up to the success of our technology outsourcing with Canty. And so they've promised me they think they can match it, but we'll see, right?
Any questions for Ms. Canaris?
I just wanted to ask a question about that to follow up. Were they able to successfully employ our current employees?
Yes, ma'am. That was part of the RFP, is that offers would be made to our current employees, and that's the point of the meetings tomorrow and Wednesday. We purposely are doing small group meetings so that they have one-on-one time with the Sodexo team. They will have our whole district-assigned team here so that they can build that rapport, they can fill out the transition paperwork, and they are set and ready to go. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Canaris.
Thank you.
I have not heard one complaint about the lunches at all. I've only heard gratitude from the parents, and the children can't wait to see what's going to be in their bag that day.
Thank you, and I'll pass that along to Joanne, Sandy, and Angie, who have really stepped up to this plate, no pun intended, for this pandemic period, and they have been creative. When we got, at the very beginning, it was a learning curve, but when we got concerns that they missed a meal or whatever, these ladies working in conjunction with Preston and the SROs that worked at the site would take the meals to the family. They called me and said, can we do such and so? And they made it happen. So thank you. I will pass that along to them.
You bet. Getting a little emotional, I can tell.
We love our people.
You love your people, I know. I see you getting emotional too over there. Yeah. All right, we need to move forward, and so in our packets, we have our personnel report as we do every month, and if you're okay doing that in the public, we have resignations from 2019 and 2020, as well as recommendations for 2020 and 21. And I will need a motion to accept that.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Ms. Hughes made the motion, and Ms. Crosby second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. That's unanimous. Under our unfinished business, we were delighted to have a workshop earlier today. We had Thompson and Turner, and they gave us a wonderful update on the facilities at our school and what to look forward to. And at this time, they have stayed so that they can give us, and people who are streaming, a snippet of what we learned today. So Ben Thompson, you may please come forward and introduce anyone you want to add anything. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Well, again, good to be with you. Ben Thompson, McMillan, Paston Smith. Also with me tonight is Michelle Smith, a former Dorchester 2 graduate, also with McMillan Paston Smith in our Charleston office. Our team is joined by Thompson Turner Construction. Hal Turner is in the audience tonight. The two firms, the architectural firm and the construction firm, have come together in looking at your facility assessments overall. So it was good to be with you at the workshop. I think we had a lot of good discussion. I got a lot of good pointers as far as we did in the workshop. And the only thing I want to do just briefly for the next couple of minutes is just recap the entire presentation that we went through. So we began this several months ago, pre-COVID. So I know that there's a lot of discussion around that, but when we look at long-term planning for a school district, this too shall pass. So we want to be able to put the school district in a position to continue better schools, to continue more appropriate schools for growth, and be able to maintain those schools looking into the future, into the midterm as well as the long term, meaning the next 5 years and the next 10 years. So we started this whole process right before the beginning of this year by looking at all 26 of your properties and assessing each one of those properties individually on their merits. This evening, this afternoon, we talked a lot about the demographic side of that. In conjunction with looking at the physical condition of a facility, also getting a projection and a forecast about those demographic numbers and that it projected and forecasted enrollment is very important. That allows you to see the growth pattern. That allows you to really meet the need of what that 10-year picture is going to look like here for Dorchester School District 2. We did employ a registered demographer for this, and he used a lot of data to pull in his numbers from both local all the way up to state and federal level data as well. And what the results were that we found is that instead of the very dramatic growth that you've been having over the last nearly 20 years, that growth is still happening. It's just happening at a slower pace. So that growth is not high growth anymore. It's low growth, and it's more stable growth in that way. So for the next 5 years, you'll still see that low growth for the next 10 years, and overall stability in the enrollment growth is what is forecast. That has a lot to do with the age of your population. You're moving from a much younger population to somewhat of an older population, so that has everything to do with kids moving from elementary school to middle school and certainly to high school. So that's what we shared with you guys overall. When you roll those numbers up into a nice graph, you'll see that when you look at the elementary school level, the middle school level, and the high school level, you do start to see some trends there. The district has been really good about over the past 20 years in meeting the need of those elementary school populations, and you'll see as a result of that elementary school population is being met in the existing facilities, and there's lower growth needed at that elementary school level. Middle school and high school, however, are a different story. We can get into that, and we did get into that a little bit during our workshop. If we take that data and really map it out by the attendance zones that you have in the district, it really starts to tell the story of each one of those cohorts. Elementary schools, like I said, seem to be very stable, and you can see there's some areas of slight decline, there's some areas of decline overall, but in general, very, very stable growth. The middle school, you can see the darker areas in this graph represent the highest growth areas. Middle schools in the dark blue area are the ones that are growing in that area. And then all three of your high schools, by about 350 students overall projected over the next 10 years. That's really what the high schools are forecast to do, and that's across the board, both more specifically at Ashley Ridge and at Somerville High School having the highest growth, and Fort Dorchester still growing just slightly below those two other high schools overall. So as we went through in the board workshop, there's a lot of information that we've collected over the last several months. We're putting that information in booklet form so that we can provide that to you. Booklet form also comes with the need to have another workshop so that we can go through the results of that physical assessment data, both in terms of scale and scope and condition, but also in value. What that means from a value proposition as you look to make predictable choices in upgrading or enhancing your facilities moving forward. We were, and I really enjoyed the discussion that we had at the workshop about looking at those keys, those goals to facility assessments. I think those are very important. We shared 8 goals that we'll be taking with us back to the office, refining those based on your commentary, and really making the effort for a 10-year capital improvements plan a valid option for this specific school district overall. With that being said, unless Hal or Michelle, you'd like to share anything else, we do have next steps, both in August, September, October, and through the balance of the year. So we're excited to push this effort forward and give you additional information to make very good choices as far as it comes to maintaining your buildings and making them and making improvements as needed. Any additional questions? I think I captured everything. If there's some area that I didn't, please let me know, and we can certainly talk about that.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any final thing before we meet again? Thank you, and thank your team for being here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. As you can see, under new business, we have the South Carolina School Board Association Virtual Law Conference, and that is to be held August 21st through 22nd. Please let Lee Smith know so she can register us if we wish to attend that, okay? Thank you. And I'd like to turn the time now over to our policy chair, Mr. Evan Guthrie, for him to explain a new policy.
So the policy committee has met virtually over the last couple of weeks to discuss the new policy concerning technology responsible use. So we don't have a lot of the acronyms or letters for it, so or not yet. So that's going to be just really updating as far as the virtual schools and sort of the protocols for that, and making sure that we update it because we know it's going to be more used in the next couple months at least. So we just want to make sure that it was totally updated, look through, and so we can approve it tonight. And for your consideration, we have first reading on policy, technology, responsible use.
I'll make a motion to accept first reading for that new policy, technology, responsible use.
Okay. Mr. Farnsworth made the first motion, and Ms. Tupper made the second. Is there any discussion?
I had a quick question, and I think it's on a similar path for the technology and the devices, and this is to Mr. Pye or Ms. Canarins. As far as, so like the insurance piece of it, liability, are there any requirements there on the parental side for parents that will be required?
I'll try to answer that, and Dr. Huggins can chime in as well. Yes, as we have looked at other districts and other policies, there's going to be an additional $20 per child or per device fee that will cover insurance, damages, and those types of things.
So that would be just kind of a registration fee?
Yes, sir. They'll do that at the time of registration.
And just to be sure, on a case-by-case basis, let's say for some reason somebody could not afford that $20?
We will follow the free and reduced guidelines, just like we do with our regular registration fees and all other applicable fees.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Canarins, while you're there, will they have, there won't be virtual registration, right? They're going to be face-to-face?
We do have online registration now. We implemented online registration, and it will go live again. We did it last year, was our first year, with a combination of online and in-person. This year, it'll be more totally online. If someone needs to come in, it will be by appointment at their individual school. But we're doing as much of the registration process online, including the collection of fees, the filling out of free and reduced lunch forms, anything that we can in order to keep the school buildings, limited for appointment only.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just to add to the discussion, I sat on the policy committee with those committee members, and This is a fairly new, it is a new policy
It is
because
a
of.
brand-new
yes.
policy.
And it covers anything and everything. So, yeah, make sure you, you agree, reread it again for the second reading in case you see anything that needs to be tweaked, but it's pretty
Thank you. Well,
detailed.
If I may, I will let you know that it went through many committees. We started out with a small committee of Dr. Huggins, Ms. Graham, myself, Mr. Pye, where we researched not only others' district policies that they had, and they were very few and far between. We also reached out to other states so that we could see what was going on. Mr. Pye, Dr. Huggins, Dr. Capoletti, and myself had the wonderful good fortune of sitting in on a session at a conference that we went to pre-pandemic in Atlanta that was a wealth of information in helping us. They're 4 or 5 years into their technology one-to-one usage, and so they were great help. And when I approach a policy and our committee approaches a policy or anything, I use the great saying, good mind borrow, but great mind steal. And you take that wheel and you change the spokes and make it spin for Dorchester District 2, and that's what I think we've done with this particular policy. We took it to the next committee level where we brought, I think it ended up being 18 or 20 individuals that included building principals, assistant principals, our modern learning specialists. We had a couple of teachers on there who also went through with a fine-tooth comb. Canty was a part of that, and also looked at this policy so that we could make sure that we were capturing what we needed to capture. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we need to vote on that now. All those in favor of approving for the first reading, please raise your hand. And it is unanimous. Thank you. I don't think there's any other business or correspondence unless someone has something.
Can I just ask, Madam Chair, it sounds like we are planning to have another meeting at some point either later this week or next week?
Next week, on Monday.
Do we know that? Is there any reason not to go ahead and vote on that and put it on the calendar?
Would you like us to do that?
Let's do it so
If you're
Pat
sure?
can notify the
Okay.
parents.
And you're
The
sure that's.
bedside timeline.
Okay, we can always cancel it if we don't need it. So we would like to make who would like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Barbara, would you complete the motion?
I make a motion that we have a call to meeting next Monday at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
I would prefer 6.
6 o'clock is our
6.
usual time.
6 o'clock? Then I make a motion that we meet at 6 o'clock for a call meeting next Monday.
I'll second that. And then again, the intent of that meeting will be to discuss and then finalize our plans for next year as a board, correct?
They will bring us their decision, and we will either approve it or not approve it. Yes, yes,
Particularly the calendar change.
yes. And the calendar change as well. Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous. Thank you. And now our last portion is our public comments, and as you know, we have no personnel or student-related issues, no more than 3 minutes, and we also are going to have phone calls as well, as I read in the beginning. I'm not going to reread it for you. So our first one that was handed to me is Miss Caitlin Hamley. Is she here? She may have had her questions answered, and so she is no longer here in the building. Okay, do I continue on these, Ms. Rain, or in the order you got them? Okay, Miss Mary Rita Watson.
She might.
Take that off. Good evening. As you all know, I'm Mary Rita Watson. I am a Read 180 teacher at Oak Brook Elementary School, 4th and 5th graders. Tonight I'm here representing the Somerville Education Association as president, as well as a member of SC for Ed and PSTA. When we embarked on this journey of cooperative advocacy, I will call it, about 2.5 years ago, the message was always that we would be stronger together. And while this is not always easy, we in DD2 have found ways to communicate, working together, working with each other. We took this model and tried to duplicate it in the in the Tri-County area. And we have an advocacy group now, that's the Charleston Area Group, and we work with Charleston County, Berkeley County, and Dorchester County educators. And we've done things such as advocacy trainings, we've done some interviews for different candidates who are trying to get into office. And we have shared ways that we kind of talk to our administration and our board members, and they share their ways as well. So in this, we again are stronger together. And so this same group of Low Country educators encouraged all 3 teacher groups, SCEA, SD4Ed, and PSTA, to work together. And this has always been our mission. We've been working on this for a good, I don't know, half a year or more. And finally, we have a joint message. And that is what you've been given. Each one of you got a copy of this. And so I'll just quickly read it to you. And I didn't bring my glasses up with me, but if I hold it far enough away, I might be able to see it. It's to Governor McMaster. It says, on behalf of South Carolina's public school teachers and personnel, we would like to express our appreciation for recent actions taken by the General Assembly that align with the recommendations by Superintendent Spearman's Accelerate Ed Task Force. We believe the inclusion of educators on the task force fostered productive collaboration that produced guidelines for safely reopening schools. While we support the task force recommendations, we have grave concerns about their implementation. It is our belief that the report does not address 2 essential areas. All recommendations must be fully and equitably funded, and the state of South Carolina's Department of Education must establish clear expectations and standards that apply to all districts. Without fully funded and clear standards, the reopening of schools will only reinforce the inequities present in South Carolina's public schools. We ask that standards governing policies like safety, PPE, cleaning materials, sanitizing classrooms, and medical leave in the event of exposure be uniformly drawn by the state and clearly communicated to districts to alleviate confusion among teachers whose classroom energies will be taxed like never before. We've already seen instances of proposed district reopening plans that are inconsistent with DHEC and CDC-aligned recommendations adopted by Accelerate Ed. Finally, as professionals, we recognize better than anyone that the myriad of challenges posed by the reopening of our schools and stand ready to meet them. We simply ask that the General Assembly commit fully to fund that which is required to keep everyone safe so that we might deliver an invigorating pedagogy in a stable environment. That is why we also ask that the State Department of Education establish clear and defined standards to be applied evenly across all school districts. And it's signed by Kathy Maness of PSTA, Lisa Ellis of SC4Ed, and Sherry East of the SCEA.
Thank you, Ms. Watson.
I
Appreciate
want to say,
that.
I can't tell how much I appreciate that. That is long overdue and a great start, because everything you said that needs to happen, I'm finding not happening. There's talk, but I'm concerned about the action, and we're one of those districts that could benefit from organized things,
Yes.
and we're one of the ones that may have a difficult time because we're trying to do the right thing.
Well, we hope this is the beginning of collaboration.
Well, I
of all
appreciate
3.
that. Thank you.
Just a note, the board is not allowed to respond, but Mr. Pye is allowed to respond. So just if y'all were wondering, he is allowed to. Thank you. When it's good, okay. Next, we have Mr. Jordan. No, we have someone, I'm sorry. We were taking it in the order it comes. Pat, will you announce who it is?
Yes, this is Robert Rayfield.
Mr. Robert Rayfield.
Robert,
Yes.
you may start now.
Okay, thank you. Hi, so my name is Robert Raffield. I teach at Ashley Ridge High School. I've been struggling with thinking about what I wanted to say tonight. I want to start by saying that I understand that all of you are under tremendous pressure from parents and teachers coming at you from both directions on this topic. I want to say that I think that no matter what, putting us back in schools without the ability to have safe social distancing and PPE requirements, mask mandates, things like that are enforceable, is dangerous to both the kids and to adults. There was a lot of stuff going around not too long ago about kids not getting it or not getting it as bad. We've had our first child death in South Carolina, tragically. And we've had a couple of other kids that have come down with long-term illnesses that are going to stay with them post-COVID. This is a disease that we don't fully understand yet. I would say that I'll just leave you with a question, and I hope that this is something that you all consider. We need to have things in place after if we go back into classrooms. We need to have things in place for the trauma of losing peers and teachers and parents and administrators. We need to have things in place for kids who are going to be struggling with that trauma. And I'm not, I don't want to be overly dramatic here. I think that it's a very real thing that we need to consider before we do anything as far as face-to-face education is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yes, we appreciate that. Did you want to respond at all?
Very quickly, since he probably had not heard this earlier, but one of the 6 subcommittees, that is our thing, is the social emotional learning, all the trauma that's come from this, as well as all the events going on in our world, in our country, kids losing, their parents losing jobs, them worrying about their parents' safety, grandparents' safety. Kids have a lot on their mind. We don't think so. We think they're playing and enjoying themselves, but they hear just enough that they're totally confused, and they can't, just like when they're hungry, when their minds are cluttered, they cannot learn properly. So, yes, sir, we will be dealing with that. That's a major, it's always been an issue with public school students, but never more than now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pye. Next, we have Jordan Hebhat. How do you I don't want to mispronounce it.
My name is actually Philip Hall. I'm just speaking on behalf of my better half over there.
And she is Jordan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we're actually proud parents of 3 children. We have our 7-year-old sassy one. We have our 11-year-old boy who's in the middle, and then we have our 9th grader who believes she knows more than everybody in this room. And we understood what happened in March. Emergencies happen, pandemics happen, and just as Mr. Evans said earlier, that we're in unprecedented times. I was in the military for 22 years and retired, and 9/11 was unprecedented. But what we did was we adapted, we overcame. And we need, in my opinion, in our family's opinion, we need to do the same thing here. We need to adapt. We need to make sure that the proper safety precautions are taken, and we need to go back to school, in our opinion. And I know that everybody doesn't share that opinion. Just as we see the numbers, yes, we see numbers every day. Numbers are rising. As parents, that's scary. When one child or one person dies, that's tragic. But we also don't see that the mortality rate's going down. Hospitalizations are going down. So numbers could be, understood in several different ways. I have a master's degree from Liberty University in human counseling. What also isn't being reported enough, I don't think, is the effect this has taken on our children, the unintended consequences of being out of school. Kids need routine more than adults do. And we see it in our youngest goes to daycare. We see her how she is, and she's been going since this started. There has been no incidents, thankfully, with her or any of the students or the staff. She comes home, she's happy, she's tired at night, she wants to go to bed. Our other children are in a different situation. They want to go back to school. They're out there playing with their friends, they're running around, they're saying, Mom and Dad, we want to go back to school. In my opinion, and I don't think that I'm wrong, and I believe without a shadow of a doubt, if we keep our children out of school, there's going to be long-term irreparable consequences. Socially, mentally, emotionally, our kids need to be back in school. And we are going to do more harm to them by keeping them out of school than returning them with the proper safety precautions. And I just want to say thank you for everything you guys do and the time you put in, and always being available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And do we have a call, Ms. Rayner?
Yes, ma'am. Megan Geist.
Okay. Hello, Megan Geist. It's your turn.
Megan,
Yes, ma'am.
you may begin.
Okay. Hi, this is Megan Gibbs from Reed Elementary School. I'm a third grade teacher there, and this was my first year teaching third grade, and I taught kindergarten for 8 years. But I feel at the elementary level that the kids need to be back in the classroom. Teaching virtually is a great option for those who do not feel comfortable returning back to school. For the teachers that would like to do face-to-face and not virtually, I'm sure we would be happy to follow any safety guidelines because we want everybody to be safe. That's our main priority. But with being an elementary school teacher, those kids need a strong foundation and something to, for them to help read and everything else that we can do what's best for the kids. So I will do whatever that needs to be done for the kids, but I do feel like they should be back in the classroom for the 2021 school year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome. Bye.
Do we have anyone else, Ms. Rayner?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Guy, if I may say something while she's dialing the next number. Your idea about first, second, third graders, or kindergarten, first and second, I still think that should be worked out with the kindergartner. I mean, with those 4-year-olds.
Where's Mr. Shuff? You heard that? He's not here.
But I just think that would be, because they get most of their stuff by noontime anyway, you know that.
A half a day for them would just go such a long way.
Yeah, and then they don't have to go to special area, and they don't have to go.
They don't have to do that. Learn to read, write, and do
That's right.
arithmetic.
And I just think that'd be great if you could work that out for those little ones.
I'll look at it again.
Thank you for your patience.
I'm getting voice message. Go to the next.
Richard, this is Frank with District 2 Schools. Are you still wishing to address the board during public comments? Ma'am. Well, that's good to hear. Thank you so much.
He doesn't want to make any remarks because he's totally satisfied with your report, Mr. Wright.
He's totally satisfied. That's good news. Okay. Is there any more, Ms. Rayner?
Yes, ma'am. I went in touch with 3, I think.
Okay. We want to give everybody a chance, and we're still under the 30 minutes, so we're okay.
Hello, Amanda. This is Mary with District 2. Are you still desiring to make some remarks to the school board this evening? All right. Would you want to speak on that, right? And your last name is Padilla? Okay. Would you like to speak? Amanda Padilla.
This is Amanda Bedelia,
Oh, and I lost her.
and
She related to me?
Amelia. Amelia Bedelia. That's cute. Okay.
All of you guys know exactly who I am.
All right, Amanda, you can begin.
Hi, this is Amanda Padilla. I'm a parent of a Gregg Middle School student and also a Beach Hill Elementary School student. And I work in the medical field, and I feel that the kids do not need to be going back to school. I have personally not seen my children physically for 3 months, because I work in the medical and my husband works in HVAC, and we have to keep our family safe, and we have family members with health problems. I feel that if they go back to school, my children will not be able to come home easily due to the fact that they will bring viruses and germs and whatnot back home to their aunt who does have has medical problems. If they go back to school, I feel like it's going to be more hard on us, but also for all kids. And I agree with Mr. Pye, just like he said, that children in the elementary school level are not going to keep these face masks on. I see it every day when I work in the doctor's office. Even adults our own age will not keep masks on like they're supposed to. They complain about it, they argue about it, and it's taken off. And social distancing, I just don't feel is going to work inside a school system.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I should have apologized to her. I did not mean to, I wasn't making light of her name or anything. I didn't.
We were trying to see where we need a name from, and then
Yes,
it dawned on us, and it really wasn't, but it was a little different.
You're good. And we have one more. Oh, two more. I'm sorry.
Okay, have another comment. What other district do you know of that goes to such lengths to hear from their people? Isn't that amazing? I mean, thank you guys.
While she's getting that, we just learned that the governor, supposedly 44 minutes ago, declared, still continues the state of emergency in South Carolina. So that's what I was alluding to earlier. We're at the mercy of the politicians, and hopefully they're getting the right information from the right sources, but that's so contradictory to what we were hearing just last week. So it just changes from day to day.
Oh, okay. We're going to go to the next one. She's not able to get her.
Two others. One went to voicemail and one went to.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rayner. We tried. All right, I need a motion at this time to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Seconded by Justin Farnsworth and made by Evan Guthrie. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. We will see you back next Monday night.